All right. Welcome to Blue Pill Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. So, today we are reviewing, obviously, you clicked on this, Oracle of Seasons, Legend of Zelda. I do have a Zelda playlist. If you like Zelda and you're interested in Zelda, obviously that's why you clicked on the video. I've been playing through basically the entire Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advanced library of Legend of Zelda. So go check out my other game reviews. Plus, there's also like I think there's 3 Zelda podcast episodes on there. Zelda related, but not game reviews. So that's why I said go check out the playlist if you want. So that way, it's just Zelda talk about the upcoming movie, an unboxing of a demake Zelda for Game Boy, and a review on it. But yeah, let's get into the review. And that was a little bit of music from the game as an intro song. Here's the thing. I'm almost done, pretty much. I would say, maybe 2 more podcasts after this one that I can do on my little journey of playing through all of the retro Zeldas on Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy Color. I've been playing on an SP. I have completed the entire collection of Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advanced. Well, not Game Boy, because I don't have Link's Awakening. I have Link's Awakening DX, which is better. But I pretty much have a complete collection of the Zelda for Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advanced, and the demake of Zelda's Adventure for Game Boy. And I do have one more game that I'm going to review that's not Zelda, but it's not. And there's an interesting backstory behind it, so whenever I do review it, you'll see. Yeah, I'm going to save it for last. But I probably got like 2 more podcasts in me of Zelda ones. So honestly, it's bittersweet, dude. And this journey, man, it got started with my wife. She knows that my favorite Zelda, like, anytime we've talked Zelda, I always bring up Link's Awakening. It's my favorite fucking Zelda. And I did a review on it. And I had seen it. And I hadn't broke down and bought it because it was like $44. Zeldas are not cheap, the cartridges. And I don't know, she just came home one day and she said, I got you something. And I said, what'd you get me? And she hands me, and here I am actually playing Game Boy Advanced. I was playing, because if you guys know, I've been doing game reviews. I've been going through all the old Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance library. And I was playing Cutthroat Island. It's okay. I'll do a review on it one day. And she just hands me Link's Awakening. And, like, dude, for like a week, I was just kissing her ass. Like, I kept thanking her, like, dude, you don't understand how much this means to me. Like, I immediately just pulled that Cutthroat Island out, like, yonk! Like, started playing, man, was just hooked. And after playing that, I'm like, because I had the entire collection, everything but Minish Cap, back in the day when I was a kid. And I'm like, dude, I'm going through and I'm getting all the old Zeldas for Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. And I did. I completed the collection. And I just been going through and beating them all. So it's bittersweet, man, because it's like, oh, it's almost over. Like, well, it kind of is over because I got like 2 more reviews I'm going to do. I've either played it to a point where I got stuck and can't get past it, or I've completed the game 100%. So today we're covering seasons, so let's get into seasons. So first off, I did a review on Oracle of Ages. Go check it out, because these games are connected, and I'm going to get into it in a second. I have a Buy Me a Coffee account set up. If you want to donate $1, please do. It helps pay for pens, papers, notebooks. It helps the channel. And please like, share, and subscribe. So, there's a misconception. There's kind of like a lot of people have called these games Zelda Red and Zelda Blue. And it's kind of a reference to like the Pokemon games back in the day. You had like Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red. There's a famous like misconception, and I seen someone the other day do it. He was doing a challenge. Hang on. Technical difficulties. He was doing a challenge where he was going through and playing the entire library of Game Boy through Game Boy Advanced, I think. And he got to the point of the Zelda Oracle games, and he was live streaming it all. And he said, hey, this is Zelda. Which one should I play? Oracle of Ages or Oracle of Seasons? They're the same game, right? And people in the comments were like, yeah, it's the same game. Just play Seasons, you know. It's not the same game, dude. They are completely different games. So a lot of people don't know that, and they think that they did. Because honestly, I ain't gonna lie. When Pokemon first came out, I had Pokemon Yellow. And I remember getting a copy of Pokemon Blue or Pokemon Red. I think it was Blue. And if you're a 90s kid like me, you guys remember like when you got your allowance money and you bought a game, we didn't have internet, and if we did, it was dial-up, and it was super slow, and it was primitive, and that's if you were even allowed to use the computer that day. So all you could do really was look at a game and go, man, that looks fucking cool, and spend all your allowance money on it, and like hope that it was fucking good, you know. And hopefully the owner of the game shop would let you try it before you buy it, you know, just to play it a little bit and go, okay, I'll get this one. So I remember getting like a Pokemon Blue cartridge and being so excited because I'd played Pokemon Yellow, and I was like, a brand new story, a brand new game. Nope, same exact story. It's just slight differences. If anything, it's worse than Yellow. Like, Pikachu doesn't follow you around. Yellow's the best out of those ones. But it's just, it bummed me out so much. I'm like, this is the same exact game. Pokemon literally put out the same game, just slight little tiny variations. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's shitty. It's a scheme to make money. Zelda did not do this, though. Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons are completely different games. And they're link games. You link them up to complete the story. And you can use cables. I didn't do that. I'm able to. I have a cable and 2 Game Boys. But maybe that's something I'll experiment with later. There's password systems to where you can use passwords from one game to the other and do side quests. So it's very expansive, man. You could play this for hours. Like, I just essentially beat both games. But I mean, I can always go back with my save files and do all of the password side quests. So it's long, dude. Depending if you're a completionist, you would love this. And there's all the ring collecting. If you watch the Oracle of Ages review, you know. First of all, I'm just gonna say it straight up while we're at the beginning of the review. Seasons is not as good as Ages. So I remember getting Link's Awakening and having that and playing it. And I remember my little brother Luke got Oracle of Ages. And you can have 3 files on it. And at this point, like, my oldest brother had moved out. So we all had like I'm the third of 4. So me and my other 2 brothers, we always had 1 save file each, you know. And we could all play the same game, just take turns through like summer vacation and shit. And I remember just by sheer luck, Luke had picked Ages. I don't know why he picked Ages, because he had the choice to get Seasons. And he wanted Ages, and I'm glad he did. So I remember playing Ages for the first time, and just the opening story, of meeting Nehru, singing in the woods, and she gets possessed by Viren. It was the first time I was like, oh, it's a female villain and she possesses people. She's a witch, you know. The story was so fucking cool, and Ralph comes up, the love interest of Nehru, tries to save her, and he's a warrior who you run into. He's on his quest trying to save Nehru. You're trying to save Nehru. And, like, you're both, like, questing at the same time. I wish they would make a side game with him. It would be so fucking cool. Even if someone did a homebrew, that would be cool, you know? If I knew how to do it, I would do it, you know? Seasons? No. No. It is not as good as Ages. If you have the choice to get one of the two, and you have to choose one or the other, like, gun to your head, you know? Get Ages, dude. Ages is a billion times better than Seasons. Now, here's why, though. So, Miyamoto is, like, the main dude of the Zelda franchise. Capcom came up to him and they're like, hey, we want to make a Zelda game. And the original plan was to make a remake of Zelda, Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, the very first one. And they were going to remake it for Game Boy Color. Which would have been sick, by the way. I would love, once again, for someone to make, like, not a demake, but a remake, because it would technically be better hardware. I would play it, because I am curious what Capcom would have done remaking. I would love to see Zelda 1 remade with Game Boy Color sprites and animation and more dialogue, and you know what I mean? Just to see what it would have looked like, hypothetically. So, originally, Seasons was supposed to be Zelda 1, the remake, but Miyamoto said he's a workaholic and he's a maniac, in a good way. He was like, yeah, I'll let you make a game, but you gotta make... I forget the number of games that he wanted them to make. I think it was like 3 or 4. He's like, yeah, but you guys need to make me 4 games. So, they were already remaking Zelda 1. And they're like, what? Now we gotta make like 3 more games? So, they were gonna make the Oracle games, a trilogy. Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Secrets. Green version. So Zelda Red, Zelda Blue, Zelda Green. They ended up cutting the third one. And Minish Cap was one of the Capcom games. So they did end up making 3 Capcom games. Ages, Seasons, and Minish Cap. But you can see, when you play this game, you can see Zelda 1 bleeding through. Because for one, they had to just tack on a story really quick, because they were already making Zelda 1. And so they just threw in some, like, his name is General Onyx. He says nothing. He does nothing. He's a silent villain. He has a minion that you run across, like, twice. It's a little bat. And I was like, oh, cool. They're, like, having some story. And then you just kill him. And you never see him again. So I'm like, well, there goes, like, the whole villain story. So, like, Viren in Ages, she shows up multiple times. Like, I don't know. The story was so deep for Ages. Tons of dialogue, you know, tons of story, tons of cutscenes. And this one, there's just, like, the game starts. There's a dancing oracle. Her name is Jin, or Din. She's dancing on a tree stump. She gets kidnapped by Onyx, and there's a pack of gypsies, and pretty much, like, you have to go save her. It's like, you're just thrown in. So, that's not always a bad thing. Like, go check out my Zelda 1 review. So, that doesn't bother me. But it is a downside. Like, I like deep lore. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I love, like, Final Fantasy X, dude. Cutscenes out the wazoo. Deep story, deep characters. Hours of just watching videos, cutscenes, and dialogue. That shit, I love that shit. So, but if you're wanting a Zelda more like Zelda 1 style, because this was supposed to be Zelda 1, of just basically, just give me a basic story, let me hack and slash. Play Seasons. And you see bleed throughs of how it was supposed to be Zelda 1, like on the map. The first dungeon is where the first dungeon would be in the original Zelda 1, of like crossing a bridge to get to a gnarled tree. It's the exact same thing. You see bleed throughs of bosses, like the bosses in like several dungeons are the original bosses from the original Zelda 1, so you do get to see what they would have looked like if they had remade Zelda 1 for Game Boy Color. It's pretty cool. And another bleed through of like anyone who's played Zelda 1 knows that like you can burn down trees or like blow up, you know, sides of cliffs and like reach caves. That it was almost dystopian, like there had been some apocalypse that happened. There's a lot of people who think that their Zelda 1 Hyrule is almost like a post-apocalyptic scenario, and it feels like that. Like there's just people living in caves or tree stumps, and you see that here too. So you'll burn down a bush and open up a passageway and go down it, and the person will either like reward you with rupees or punish you and say, you burned down my front door, you know? Like Zelda 1. You see those bleed throughs. And it makes sense too, like Capcom did their homework, because in Link's Awakening, the color dungeon, you can choose red tunic or blue tunic. Blue tunic is more of like the damage you take is half. It's more defensive, which would make sense with Oracle of Ages. It's more puzzle driven, more storyline. This one is more less story, less puzzles, which is a plus for me. I'm going to get into that. And more hack and slash, straight to the point. And it's red, like red tunic. And you can definitely see the different style of gameplay. So like one, like I said, is less puzzles, which I actually like, because I don't mind puzzles in Zelda when they're not too hard. When they're not too easy, but they're not too hard. There's got to be this like middle ground. So there was times when I was playing Ages like tearing my hair out. Or Zelda in general. I feel like there's times that they're fun games, but man, they can be stressful with some of the puzzles, man. And without walkthroughs and shit, it's like, what am I? Oh, how do I do this? You know? So there's less of that. So I did like that, because there is a part of me that sometimes I just want to be Link and hack monsters up, you know? I don't want to do puzzles. I just want to hack people up and get keys. And so if you like that style, you'll like this. Oh, the combat. So where I was saying it reminded me of wearing the red tunic is it's more hack and slash. And dude, the bosses in this game are beast mode. So most of these bosses I would not be able to beat without a red potion. And I kept having to go to Syrup's house to get Maple's potion. And without those potions, like, there's no way I would have fucking beat half these bosses. And even with the potion, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, most of these bosses, I wouldn't even say half. I'd say, like, 75% of these bosses, like, I would beat. Maybe even 80, 90%. The bosses are beast in this game, dude. Like, most of the bosses in this game, I would beat with like 1.5 heart or half a heart. I remember beating one boss with half a fucking heart, dude. Like on the edge of my seat, like, ah! It was intense, dude. The bosses are beast, man. So I do feel like when you beat Ages, like if you play Ages first and beat Ages first, it'll give you a password at the end, and you can start Seasons and type in that password, and it'll make it a linked game. So I purposely beat Ages first. That way I could get a linked game, because where I had played this as a child and I knew that it lacked storyline so much, I was like, I personally like storyline. I felt, and maybe this is all in my head, maybe someone who's gotten far enough in the linked version and the non-linked version, maybe you can tell me. But I started Seasons with as a linked game, and I felt like it did change the opening cutscene. It added a little. It added like one more cutscene. It added a little more dialogue and story. But it still lacked story, man. So one part of the game though, that actually the story was pretty deep, and I think it was deep because I played it as a linked game. Was there's like Stalfo pirates on Ages and Seasons, and the queen, I forget her name, but the queen of Ages ends up traveling to the land of Seasons. There's Labrina and, forgive me, I'm sorry, Lena and Labrina, I believe. So she ends up traveling from her land. So there's a lot of crossover characters. You'll see her, and there's a love story with her and her boyfriend, aka husband. I don't know. He was a pirate. He died at sea. Now he's a Stalfo. So I got to complete their story, and there's tons of dialogue, lots of side quests, and it is necessary to get further in the game. And that was pretty cool. That kind of filled that little hole of like, man, I wish I had story, and I liked their story. Zelda makes a cameo in this, and she actually becomes like a side character in this, which is very rare for a Zelda game. Most of the time, she's either getting kidnapped or turned to stone, or you know, you don't really see Zelda too much, but in this one, you see her a lot. She hangs out with Impa, her nursemaid, and yeah, she ends up like coming to the village at one point and like talking to the people and riling them up, you know, towards the end of the game. It's kind of cool. It's neat. So one thing I noticed, dude, and this kind of blew my mind, and it definitely felt like Zelda 1. Like I said, this game was supposed to be Zelda 1, so it does feel like Zelda 1 in many aspects. Literally, it was like 3 dungeons in a row that I literally beat one dungeon. I think I beat 2 dungeons in one night, like one playthrough. I beat one dungeon and literally went straight to the next dungeon, and then beat that dungeon and literally went straight to the next dungeon. Like, no side quest in between. And if you've ever played Zelda 1, that's a familiar, like, trait. That's a familiar thing, like, just beating one dungeon and going straight to the next. Like, there's multiple dungeons that you can just beat out of order. I mean, you can't do it in this one. You have to beat all the dungeons in order in this one. But, like, there's several dungeons that you could just play out of order. You could start Zelda 1 and just beat Dungeon 3. And then go and beat Dungeon 1. Like, I've done it before. On accident, not even knowing it, you know? Just beat dungeons out of order. But yeah, and just not even do any side quest shit. Just go straight to the next dungeon. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's good for speedrunning if you're a speedrunner, you know? So one thing that I enjoyed is I'm a huge fan of side quest. I'm not a completionist, because I do lose interest after a while. That's part of why this series is kind of ending, because I've gotten to the point where I've either beaten all these Zeldas, or I'm like so close to beating, or I'm just kind of like, yeah, I've like invested months into this shit. Like, I'm tired. I want to move on to something different, you know? But this one, I did multiple side quests. So I love, not the mechanic, but the spiel, I guess. I can't find another word, but the spiel of the rings in this game. Um, as a kid, like I fell in love with it because I've always been. If you guys know, I'm an occultist and I'm a witch. I've always been interested in like magical rings. Like, oh, this ring does this ring does that. And you find that in occultism in real life. The same thing with these two games, the Oracle games. Each rings give you certain powers. But I love the idea of collecting rings. And I remember when I was a kid playing this game, first of all, I had like a wooden sword. I'd go out back and swing it around and, adventure around and shit. But I remember like getting quarters and finding quarters on the ground in parking lots and going to like those cheap little ring machines at like restaurants and shit. I was always looking for ring machines, even though they're plastic with fake jewels, but I pretended like they were like magical rings like in Zelda, so even as an adult, that inner child comes through, and some of the rings do nothing, but the side quest of doing them, I don't mind monotonous shit. Like I said, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I'll never forget, dude, there was one time I was snowed in a blizzard, and I was living with my nieces and nephew, and my nephew, we were all getting I wasn't getting cabin fever because I was playing Final Fantasy VIII, but my oldest nephew came in, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna hang out with you today. And I'm like, that's cool. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, playing Final Fantasy VIII. And he's like, cool. And he's seen that I was just running back and forth, fighting, beating monsters, drawing magic. And he's like, how long are you gonna do this? I said, until I reach 99. He's like, what level are you at now? I'm like, 50. And I'm a maniac. I spent 8 hours just grinding to get to level 99. And he's like, he sat there and watched and hung out with me the entire fucking time. And he's like, is there more to this game? I'm like, yeah, there's more to it. There's a story. I know what I'm doing. I'm grinding out. I'm maxing out. So, like, one of the rings is, like, the rupee ring. You have to collect 10,000 rupees. And I sat there and dug for hours, for days, in shifts, obviously. Like, I would play for, like, 2 hours of just digging, collecting rupees. Trying to get the hunt. And I did. I got the rupee ring, which is collecting 10,000 rupees, digging holes. I got the 100th ring, which you can kind of do that with the rupee ring. So what I would do is collect 999 rupees, and then I would go to this shop in town, and there's a treasure chest game of guessing which treasure chest has a rupee, and if you get it right 4 times in a row, he gives you a ring, and you can get the ring appraised at a ring shop. So you can do a lot of these side quests at the same time. So I ended up getting 100 rings appraised. I ended up getting 10,000 rupees. There's a whole nother level to the game. It's called Subrosia. And there's a guy in there who has a sign collection. He's obsessed with signs. And this was actually kind of funny. So there's a ring that you can get called the sign ring. And what it is on your journey, you have to destroy 100 signs. So pick them up out of the ground and smash them. And he tells you how many signs you've destroyed and how ashamed of you he is. So after you reach 100 signs, he says, you've destroyed 100 signs. Shame on you. I'm going to punish you. And the game goes black. And then it shows Capcom, Nintendo, like the game is restarting. And then it goes black again. And it goes back to him, and he goes, did you learn your lesson? That was mean, wasn't it? And it was like, holy shit, like Zelda just trolled me. It was whoever put that in the game was genius. And then he goes, okay, now I'm going to give you this ring to remind you not to do that again. And you get it appraised, and that's the sign ring. But yeah, dude, so I had fun with this game. Is it my favorite Zelda? No, it's actually, honestly, it's not my least favorite Zelda. I'm going to review that, probably my next Zelda review. I'm going to review my least favorite Zelda. And you're actually going to be surprised which Zelda is my least favorite Zelda. As far as the retro, as far as the Game Boy Color, Game Boy, that library. I'm not talking all Zeldas in general. I'm talking just this journey that I've been on. You'll be surprised. But at the end of the day, dude, if you like Zelda 1, you'll like Seasons. I give this a 7 out of 10. It's okay. If you just want to just play Zelda with less puzzles and more hack and slash, if you're in that type of mood, if that's your style of gaming, not too much story, not too much dialogue, you just straight to the point, I want to kill monsters with a sword, this is the game for you. 7 out of 10. I hope you all enjoyed the review. Please like, share, and subscribe, and you all have a blessed day.